Hi everyone, welcome. Today we have a new tier list. We'll be broken down into the cost of units. We have 1 cost, 2 cost, up to 5 cost. We will be looking at 1 cost in comparison for the early game. Keep that in mind. This comparison not only considered the early game, also for the use of units after round 10. I'll be explaining those as well. To start the game, we'll be looking at early game units, 1 cost units. Those are the 4 usually I'll lock for a payoff. Those are Anti-Mage, Jaw Ranger, Bounty Hunter, and Clockwork. Jaw Ranger is a new addition over here for a few reasons. Number 1 reason is that I am a Hunter player now after making multiple Hunter tests and making the Hunter Guide. I'll be attaching a link below for you guys to see the Hunter Guide, really good Hunter Guide, and still very strong after this new patch update. Anti-Mage is great for his offensive and defensive capabilities. He can burn mana as offensive, he locks down a unit. Defensively, he will disable all of those demons. Not only do the demons deal less damage, the demons will also gain mana slower because they can't double dip with the true human demon powers of the pure damage. Demons actually double dip with mana gain because of that without a demon hunter. Bounty Hunter is a great unit because of low CD, works in the goblins, and also he's assassin. Multiple reasons to pick up Bounty Hunter early game. And over here the Clockwork is a really strong bruiser. He really excels in 1 vs 2, 1 vs 1 fighting. If he gets a nanobot, he is incredibly strong. Because of that, Clockwork can really work well in early game goblin setup. Lastly, why is the Jaw Ranger there? Jaw Ranger is there because he's a hunter that we can pick up 3 hunters quite easily with the Jaw Ranger, Marana, and Beastmaster in early game. She's also undead. Very heavy favors for undead. Abaddon is one of the most picked unit in the last season and still one of the top picks for the physical lineup with undead. Jaw Ranger also enables us to start saving up gold because she is quite easy to be found as 2-star, and then she can carry us with the unit composition of hunters, maybe a few warriors to go into the mid game with a greater economy. Also being a hunter player, Jaw Ranger is one of the crucial hunter units we'll be finding into 3-star. She is also the carrier for Mass of Menace. For those few reasons, I have put Jaw Ranger higher than usual for myself personally. If you guys are not a big fan of hunters, she can be where in the A tier I believe. She's still quite strong, but maybe not in S tier for now. Looking over here, the 2 other units I may be locking when I see 2 of them if they have another unit that fits their class or their race synergy. So one is Mars, one is Tiny. A Mars, if I see 2 Mars, I'll be locking for those if I see another warrior. Similarly for Tiny. If I see Tiny, 2 of those, I'll be locking if there's another warrior. Mars is one of the really strong units in the early game. Not only does he enable the warriors, he's a great tank. Mars reduces the amount of mana the enemy will gain because they cannot deal physical damage to Mars over 50. You have to deal over 50 to gain the max mana per attack. But Mars's passive reduces the damage. Again, Mars's armor reduces the damage again. So most units hitting Mars cannot gain enough mana to cast spells fast. And this is quite strong in the early game, mid game, even in the late game. Tiny is here for 2 reasons. He's an elemental. Also, he is reworked. Tiny is reworked with his spell casting. He now will toss the enemy to the corners where maybe there are other enemies as well. By tossing, if he stuns the enemy, at 2-star, Tiny will be stunning for 2 seconds and doing about 200 damage to all the enemies in AoE. That is massive, that's almost as strong as the Tide Hunter. The Tiny is almost a 1-star Tide Hunter. Looking over here at the bottom of the list, the Tusk and Enchantress can activate the Beast synergy, but I rarely lock for 2 of those unless I have a reason to go for them, but usually I'll be locking for the top 6 units. The Shadow Shaman and Barrett are here higher than the other 3 units down there because they are so much popularity with the Trolls. I'll be touching on the Trolls as we go. So to focus on the Trolls are the new favors in the meta. The Troll Warriors are by far the strongest, followed by a different Troll lineup with maybe a variety of units. So Troll can work well in 3 warriors and 6 warriors. Troll can work okay with knights, but I have tried it a few times and those results are not optimal. Lastly, Tinker, Axe, and Ogre. Those units either don't do enough damage or those units do not transition well enough after round 10. Tinker is okay for the goblins when you have the 3 goblins, but other than that, most lineup do not pick the Tinkers. Even the Majors will be a little skeptical to pick up the Tinker unless it's a 2-star. Axe is a great Orc. He will enable the Orc synergy, which is again buffed slightly, but Axe does not do enough damage. In the early rounds, around round 4 to round 10, we really need something to do some damage. Ogre here is nice, but he's quite awkward. Even after the 5% HP buff, Ogre is still a 1-star unit. A 1-cost unit, that is. Ogre, while Ogre is in your team, you probably only have 3 or 4 units, or maybe 5 units. At the early stage of the game, the 5% HP buff is not very relevant. And because of that, unless we're running Mages, we don't really need an Ogre in the early game. Now, we do have a comment that Daypre says Bat Rider should be in F. The reasons that the Trolls are up there instead of those 3 units because of the heavy meta transition into the Trolls in the mid game. I have put them higher because now it's more than ever likely for me to pick the Trolls even if I see 2 Trolls in the early game. If I see 2 Witch Doctor, maybe 2 Shadow Shaman and a Bat Rider, I'll definitely pick them. Why is that? Because with the introduction of Dazzle, this lineup can be so much stronger and the power spike comes so much earlier compared to before. Before you had to search for the crucial Troll Warlord, now if you find the Dazzle, it becomes your win condition. Over here, this is the second cost list for the 2 cost units. This will be for the rounds from round 4 to round 17, about those rounds. On the top we have Timbersaw, Queen of Pain and Beastmaster, followed by the Chaos Knight, Morphling and Witch Doctor. There's a few reasons why those units are up there. I'll be explaining the top 2 lines of units and I'll briefly touch on the rest of the units. Timbersaw is a Goblin, works really well with the dominating Goblin builds and allowing most players to have a win streak or stronger composition in the early game. Timbersaw is also a burst damage dealer, quite tanky with 800 health and 6 armor. He also does pure damage, which counters the knights and counter a lot of the armored units. Timbers also have a really low cooldown, so not only is he a great frontline for the goblins, he can be incredibly strong if you find him as 2-star. Queen of Pain is a backline damage dealer. If you position the Queen of Pain properly, she can do quite a bit of damage by standing right behind your tanks and doing all her AoEs onto the enemy. The Queen of Pain have a low CD and quite heavy attack, quite strong AoE damage. The downside for Queen of Pain is that she has no armor and her HP is not very high. If something goes onto her, say assassin, she'll die quite quickly, but because her casting is instant, she can always almost get a cast off even at level 1. She's also a demon, which double dips in the mana game. Beastmaster. Beastmaster is another AoE damage unit. Notice here for 2 cost units, we're picking all the AoEs. Beastmaster not only is a physical attack AoE damage dealer, Beastmaster is also a hunter. Because the strength of hunters for finding 3 hunters in the early game, once you find the 3 hunters, you get a flat damage addition. This is really good for 1-star units because if your units are doing 50 damage, adding 25 more damage to the unit really makes him stronger with 50% more damage in comparison to most other lineups that comes mature a little slower. Beastmaster, as one of the frontliners for the hunters, can really enjoy some of the tanky items, receive some damage, and cast his spells fast. After casting, Beastmaster can amplify his physical attacks to the enemy. This allows him to deal more damage and sometimes even to cast a second time because it's relatively shorter CD. I believe Beastmaster have 7-second CD and that is quite nice. Chaos Knight, Morphling and Witch Doctor each serves a different purpose. So over here, the Chaos Knight is nice to be found as a 2-star. Due to the recent nerf, the Chaos Knight is still quite relevant, but he's not as strong as himself previously, and the Chaos Knight do fall off after round 17 because there's multiple units on the board and he dies so much faster than before. And because he doesn't enjoy the 4 knights anymore, the Chaos Knight is here but with a warning, because if you go into the Chaos Knight, likely you'll be going to at least 3 knights, and the 3 knights are not as strong as before. So what I should be doing is I should be putting the Chaos Knight between the A and B stages. Morphling. Why is Morphling here? One thing, Morphling is assassin. Second thing is Morphling is elemental. If you know the strength of elementals and goblins in the early game, you know why they're so good. because elementals and goblins allows you to build up a win streak, save up some economy, and then go level quicker or roll for more units before anybody else. We want the advantage, we want to be aggressive, and elementals allow us to do that with cost efficiency. A 1-star Morphling with a 2-star Tiny could be incredibly strong before round 10, and Morphling can also go into elemental assassins, and we all know how strong the assassins are. Even with the previous nerf to lower jumping time, now the assassins are buffed slightly again. Witch Doctor. Why is Witch Doctor there? Witch Doctor is one of the crucial trolls for the 4 trolls. Witch Doctor is one of the biggest controller for the trolls before they find units like Tide and Medusa. Witch Doctor's coconut is quite strong even in a Gods lineup as well, but now I have started to favor the Dazzle in the Gods lineup compared to the Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor is the activator for the trolls, and he can also run pretty well with the Troll Warlord as 2 of the trolls. So because of that, a 2-star Witch Doctor is quite strong in the early game because it's only few units. If you bounce the coconut, it's likely all of those units will be affected, and also being a Warlock, Witch Doctor gains double the mana for each one of his attacks. So Witch Doctor, if he deals 50 damage, will gain 20 mana. With a mana regen item, he'll be gaining 30 mana with a crown and 40 mana with a void stone. Crystal Maiden, Juggernaut, Slardar, and Luna do serve a different purpose. Crystal Maiden is a mage. There's increasing amount of mages coming, especially with the Gods Mage where it's Dazzle. But the downside with Crystal Maiden is that she does not fare that well in the early stage of the game. She is a great unit for the mages, or maybe for a lineup that needs mana. The downside is she cannot be very effective after you have at least 6 or 7 units on the board. Of course, if you're running mages, this can be different. She can be quite effectively even at level 1 Crystal Maiden because she activated mage debuff for the enemy, and also she makes sure you cast your spells a little bit faster than the enemy. Juggernaut is a nice unit compared to Slardar as well. Juggernaut is an Orc and Slardar is a Naga. Both of the units do serve a purpose, especially for the Warriors lineup. Juggernaut do go really well with your early 6 or 3 warriors, and Juggernaut can be found 2-star quite easily. The downside for the Juggernaut is that he really do fall off after round 17, and usually at that time we can be swapping the Juggernaut for a Conquer, maybe a Doom, or maybe a Troll Warlord. Slardar here is quite strange. Slardar works well in 2 or 3 lineups. He can work well in multiple lineups because it's only 3 Nagas, and Tide Hunter can be quite hard to find. We can run Slardar with Medusa, and most Warriors lineup and Hunter lineup do that. Because the increase of mages, Slardar is going to be very favored at 2-star, and if we can find Slardar at 3-star, he's really a force to be recognized with. Slardar does 170 attack damage at 2-star, and that is almost the highest attack damage for a 2-star unit. Luna is in an awkward position right now. After testing the Knights, I feel that the Knights are so much weaker than before in comparison, and Luna is not having a good time. If she's not in a Knight lineup, she has to be in an Elf lineup to make herself work. And we know that Elves have not gained that much popularity, and the Knights has been falling. So Luna is a mediocre unit, but the highlight is if you do find a 2-star Luna early, she can be your standalone damage, physical damage dealer. So let's say if you have Undead and Luna, she still packs a punch. Lastly, although Marana is a hunter, she's still not very highly rated by me, and Furion is one of the weakest 1-cost unit. Furion is only here because his ability to be used as a 2-star. He's at sea now. Furion has to be used at 2-star, I believe. 1-star Furion is about 0.5-star unit. A 2-star Furion is about 1.5 or 1.2-star of a unit. Lastly, why is Puck there? Puck is great for the Gods Mage. Puck is great for the Elves. Puck is not that great for the Elves. Puck is not that great for the Elves, but Puck enables the Dragons. The downside for the Puck is, in the early game, you want 2-cost units that works. If you find a Puck to 2-star, it actually is a waste of money, because most Dragon lineup only need Puck to be 1-star. 2-star is okay, and no one really go for Puck as 3-star. So Puck is the most awkward unit here, unless you run him with a specific lineup. This is the 3-cost tier list. This is the most exciting tier list because it has my triple S tier unit. Unfortunately, this website does not have Dazzle, so right now, Witch Doctor is cosplaying as Dazzle. Let's jump into Dazzle right away. Let me explain Dazzle and why is he rated so highly. Dazzle is a troll. He is the 5th troll. This allows trolls to be activated so much easier for us to find a 4th troll. Dazzle is a priest. This is a new class. Having a priest on the battleground means your courier will take 20% less damage. But it's more than that. If your courier will take 3 damage, you only take 2 damage. So that means at times you're actually reducing damage by 33%. Other times your minimized damage is 20% or even higher, because the rounding of the game actually rounded upwards. So that means if you're taking 7 damage, you might be taking 5, but if you take 3 damage, you will take 2. So Dazzle is a really nice unit if you run a few different options with him. Let me introduce the last spell of Dazzle, then let's go into the options for Dazzle. Dazzle's casting spell is Shadow Ward. At 1 star, Dazzle will protect 1 ally unit for 4 seconds, 15-second cooldown. 2 star is 2 allies protected for 4 seconds. And lastly, at 3 star, he will protect 3 allies for 4 seconds with 15-second cooldown. The cooldown stays the same. Now, how does this Shadow Ward works is Dazzle will protect the unit that has the lowest health during the fight. Whoever has the lowest health will be casted by Dazzle. And Shadow Ward will protect the unit so its HP does not fall below 1. What that means is the unit still takes damage if they have HP greater than 1, but its HP will be fixed onto 1 until the duration ends. Dazzle can cast this on himself as well. The cast has very low animation casting, and it's a very good casting spell. Now, we did talk about Dazzle as the 5th addition to the trolls. Being the 5th addition to the trolls, Dazzle enables the trolls to start so much faster, allowing us to have the spike for the trolls without the troll warlord. We can later transition into the troll warlord by removing one of the other trolls, most likely the Shadow Shaman. Second thing with Dazzle is his class as a priest. Priest gains double the mana, similar to mages, shamans, and warlocks. That means if Dazzle deals 50 damage to the enemy, he will gain 20 mana per hit, and that's before any mana buff items. Priest reduces the damage the courier takes. If you're 100% health with the Dazzle on the board, that means you all of a sudden will have 120% health. We all know how crucial health is in the late game, and that 120% health is going to go a long way. On top of that, having a priest on your lineup means you can run open fort, you can start losing streaks so much safer. I have tried running Dazzle with my Gods lineup with a semi-open fort with a losing streak, and we were doing so well because we protected health so much nicer. I think we were on about 50% health around 15, and that was never the case until 2 months ago because people wanted that aggressive. I have faced warrior lineups with a beast, I have faced troll lineups, I have faced multiple lineups that I should have lost massively, but only lost 7 or 8 HP because of the Dazzle's passive. Lastly, Dazzle's Shadow Ward is quite strong because in the late game, I can afford to have Dazzle in the front line as a 2-star. He will almost always cast the Shadow Ward on himself and as a unit. Sometimes he will cast on 2 units that is about to die. Now, having Dazzle means my Enigma that's under attack by the enemy will actually survive long enough to get his spells casted. And surprisingly enough, that Enigma was attacked by the anti-mage of the enemy. And he even survived long enough to cast his spells under the attack of the anti-mage. And Dazzle also allows units like 1-star techies, 1-star gyrocopter to get the spells off before they die. So that spell is really the last word of the units, really allows them to cast for the final spell. Knowing how good Dazzle is, it's incredible when I see multiple players just running Dazzle in the lineup. And how would I use Dazzle is when I have high HP, when I think my lineup is stronger than most players, I'll keep one Dazzle on the bench. The moment when my lineup falls off, let's say if I'm running goblins, I know goblins will fall off after round 17-ish, I'll switch the Dazzle in for maybe a weaker unit, and when I start to lose, all of a sudden I'm losing less, giving me a chance to start a losing streak, and also start to build up the economy and start to spend some economy into finding my winning condition with techies. Dazzle can also be used offensively with the 4 trolls, and I will be introducing that with the troll warlord. After the Dazzle, we comes back to the S tier units. Those are Razors, Lycans, Shadowfang, and Terrorblade. Each of those units serves a different purpose. Razor enabled elementals. That's one of the biggest things for him in the early game, because we tend to find a 1-star Razor more often than likely. We also can find a 1-star Lycan. If he's on warrior lineup with additional armor, he can actually cast his wolves off before dying. Shadowfiend is a great standalone demon, while Terrorblade is a great demon if you find him as a 2-star. The downside for Terrorblade and Lycan is that both of those are melee units. They really do fall off after round 26 or 31, and because of that, Razor and Shadowfiend actually goes a little later compared to those two. Razor can go into the mage lineup, can go into the Gods Mage lineup actually, and also Razor works really well in elemental builds that uses a tiny or morphling. If you have a morphling, that means you want burst damage. If you have a tiny, means more than likely you have 3 warriors, and Razor works well by complementing the lack of magic damage you have. Lycan works well as a human silencer and as a beast. Lycan can summon wolves to punish enemies for being weak or running a losing streak. But no matter how much Lycan punishes, Dazzle always protect you with the priest protection. Shadowfiend is a great AoE unit and also a great unit for single target damage. Shadowfiend is one of the ideal units for mages as well. He amplifies the magic damage of mages with his great burst and wide range of AoE. Shadowfiend also does a lot of damage with his demon powers. Because of that, you see most mages running a 2-star or 3-star Shadowfiend in the late game. Terrorblade. Terrorblade, unlike Anti-Mage, Terrorblade is a demon and a demon hunter. Terrorblade can do really well when he's 2-star with a few items. Terrorblade can be incredibly strong when you find him as 3-star. The great thing about Terrorblade is that most people do not run a Terrorblade unless they have Anti-Mage. And the reason we have Anti-Mage so highly before is likely we have a 2-star Anti-Mage. And now if we pick up a pair of Terrorblade, if you find a 2-star Terrorblade before round 15, he is going to give you at least 5 or 4 rounds of win streaks. Over here, we can see Venom. Venom is recently buffed with HP. Venom's cooldown is also buffed, so a 2-star Venom have lower CD, so Venom is also a beast. Venom goes really well with the Warlocks, so multiple reasons to pick up a Venom. He gains mana twice as fast as a Warlock, he enables a beast, and also he can punish enemies with his summons, so enemies actually lose so much faster. Venom really do enjoy some mana items, and usually what I do is I give a crown and a voice stone to the Venom, and you just watch the 1-star or 2-star Venom summon non-stop. The biggest highlight for Venom is after round 26 or even at round 21. So the biggest highlight for Venom is after round 21, maybe after 26, especially after round 31. If you only have a 2-star Venom, definitely sell him for the Medusa or sell him for the Conquer, for the units that's going to cast a spell that's going to control the enemy instead of just casting a little Venom words. So the highlight for Venom is he can be salvaged for items. Shrine Protector can be easily found as 2 or 3 stars, with 1 Druid and with 4 Druid. Lone Druid is the key factor here, and I have putting Shrine Protector a little higher than most because his ability to run with assassins and elves. And also most people do not pick Shrine Protectors unless they're going for the Druids or the elves. Windrunner and Sniper are hunters. They're there because they activate the hunters. Usually I prefer the Windrunner over Sniper because hunters do not lack physical damage. Although Sniper is a good physical attack damage dealer, we have plenty of that. Windrunner supplements what we lack is AoE magical damage, while Beastmaster gives us AoE physical damage. So my favorite units before I find Medusa are Draw Ranger, Windrunner, and Beastmaster for hunters. Sniper can be a candidate for the Master of Madness, but again, it does overlaps with the amount of physical damage the hunters do. If you face a knight lineup with super armor, now if you face a warrior lineup, if you face a goblin lineup with armored units, Sniper will not be able to do much unless you find him as 3-star. Even at 3-star, he's not a game-changing unit in the late game. Phantom Assassin have received several nerfs because how strong she is in the Assassin lineup. She is still a great Assassin because she can activate the Alpha Assassin, she can also be a great unit to put down the Mask of Madness, and she can critical so much harder even at 2-star. Only Knight and Abaddon are the units that's falling down. What I want to do is, I want to be putting Abaddon over here for us. Let's have a look at Abaddon first. Abaddon do activate the undead, and that differentiates him from Only Knight. Only Knight is also human, but human silence is not as critical as Abaddon's undead aura with the Draw Ranger or with the Necromancer. But because most cases we will not have the In most cases, we will not have the Necromancer and Abaddon that early. We're likely to have the Jorungia and Abaddon. How would you want to think about Abaddon is that he will amplify your physical damage by 17%, and this is so much higher than the Beast buff for 10% attack damage buff. If you're doing 10% more damage, you still have to go through armor reduction, but if you reduce the armor, it's amplified damage, that's also 70% almost pure damage in that sense. Only Knight being a Knight has been falling off greatly for me. I will be avoiding Knight comps unless there's a big reason for me to go into Knights, maybe an early 2-star Dragon Knight, or maybe an early 2-star Knights for a lineup with only Knight, Luna, and Chaos Knight. Lastly, Luna is the Knight's mage. Even with the recent buffs, she is a single target mage. She cannot do much because we will be facing at least 7 or 6 units when Lina's on the board, and while during the small skirmishes, Lina can only isolate 1 unit at a time. Her cooldown is quite long, so she can cast about 2 or 3 times max in a fight, and because of that, she is not that ideal mage I wanted. I want something that does AoE, I want something that can wipe the enemy fast, and lastly, although Lina is a great human, what we can have is we can have the Crystal Maiden, we can have the Keeper of the Light, we can have the Conquer, we can have the Lina. But instead of Lina, what most people do is they have the Conquer, they have the Lycan. So this way they can activate the warriors, summon more beast, and also be stronger with a frontline human instead of backline human. Over here we did miss the Viper, so let's touch on the Viper. Viper is an assassin, but he's a single target assassin, his spells are also single targeted. Viper is great in the 3 assassins with elf dragons. Viper is okay with 6 assassins, but usually he's not my ideal candidate to go to 3-star with. Viper is surprisingly strong as 2-star with dragons. He will disable most of the neutral monsters and also lock down a unit at the start of the game. The downside is Viper is not very versatile. We can't really use Vipers in a lineup that doesn't have dragons. Because if Viper does not cast fast enough, it's going to take a long time before he casts, and sometimes even when he casts, it's already too late. The fight is already lost. This is the 4th tier list for the 4 cost units. Here we have lined up the 4 cost units in terms of their mid-game and late-game potentials. Let's go through the top of the units. Conquer, Lone Druid, and Medusa on top. Conquer is a human, warrior, and a controller. Conquer can deal some damage with bolt. Conquer have 10 HP, Conquer have 10 armor and 950 HP, and that's a very tanky unit. That's a really good standalone unit, even at 1-star. He can fit on most lineups, and sometimes I even take down my 2-star Tinker to fit the Conquer for my Goblins lineup. Conquer fits really well with 3 warriors and 6 warriors. Conquer can be one of the late game controllers even if you don't have warriors. A 2-star Conquer is almost guaranteed to get the bolts off, so he is one of the ideal controllers for the late game. There are only about 3.5 ideal controllers, and Conquer is one of them. Lone Druid. Lone Druid is great again for his versatility to fit most lineups. If you have 2 beasts, all of a sudden you do a little more damage. Lone Druid also enables the Druids to be activated for the 3-star Druids, because he is your 4th Druid, and Lone Druid can be one of those units that you can easily find him as 2-star or even 3-star. Lone Druid provides a much needed tankiness, and as a bear that can also root an enemy, Lone Druid can also provide some damage with his bear as well, so Lone Druid is quite versatile for most lineups. Medusa, a crucial unit for the hunters, much needed unit for the Nagas, and also a key controller in the late game. Medusa is one of the top controllers in the late game because her wide range of control, her extended duration of 5 second casting of the Stone Gaze, and also her 2.5 second stoning that amplifies the physical damage the enemy receives. Because there are only 15 Medusas, what we're likely going to see is everyone's going to be running Medusa for the late game if they're mages or if they have a Slayer or a Tide Hunter. Also, the Hunters loves Medusa. Medusa is one of those crucial units that have been nerfed several times now, but despite that, she's still very strong at 2-star. With the correct positioning and with some mana gaining items, Medusa is a force to be reckoned with and also a winning factor for the late game. Alchemist is now an Augur. An Augur means he will buff the entire team for 5% of the max HP, and this is very good for Alchemist. All his good essence is still there. He's still a goblin, he's still a warlock that gains twice mana when he attacks, he still have 0 armor, but he can still cast Chemical Reach with Acid Spray when he casts. That's an instant cast, that's a -4 armor. Alchemist is top on my list because 2 reasons. One is his spells are instant cast, and he can usually get his spells off if he's protected in the middle at 1 star. Alchemist Acid Spray is basically a 2-in-1 package. Alchemist himself is a 1-man undead team. -4 armor is same as 2 undead on the field. The downside with Alchemist is that if he dies too fast at 1 star, he's not that great. But the good thing about Alchemist is that he's a warlock. He can gain twice mana, and also he's a melee unit that takes damage that gains mana. Alchemist can also activate the warlocks. Knowing how often we fight and we use the chores, Alchemist can be your 3rd chore with the Witch Doctor, with a Necromancer and Alchemist. Maybe a Venomancer, Witch Doctor and an Alchemist. Over here we have the Doom. Doom is one of those units that can sometimes do magic but sometimes does nothing at all. Why is that? The new change of Doom's AI means Doom can sometimes doom a unit that has no spellcasting like a Draw Ranger or maybe a Slider that's really irrelevant. Because of this change of AI, Doom is not one of the top tier units for me now. Previously, he used to be better than a lot of the legendaries because he would silence the legendaries for a long time. The Doom's duration has been reduced as well, so the 1-star Doom is no longer that effective. A 2-star Doom is still okay. A 3-star Doom is wonderful though. Doom is also a warrior. Being one of the 3 purple warrior, he is very strong when you find him as a 2-star unit. He is likely going to be a crucial warrior to activate the 6 warriors. Noticing that there's so many physical lineups nowadays, the 6 warriors are really dominating with the trolls as well. And talking about the trolls, we have the Troll Warrior. Troll Warrior previously was not ranked highly by me, but with the popularity and the dominance of the troll builds, Troll Warrior, when he's found, he can not only activate the 6 warriors, but also activate the troll synergy by replacing a Shadow Shaman. And because of that, Troll Warrior is going to be so strong in the coming meta unless there's a big change to the trolls. I have seen people making Troll Warrior work in multiple lineups. The most highlight lineups will be 3 warriors and 6 warriors. Troll Warlock, being a warrior himself, can really make things work, and sometimes in a Troll Warrior lineup you don't need the Bat Rider. You can keep the Shadow Shaman and not use the Bat Rider. This allows the trolls to be so much versatile, and with the additional Dazzle, when the Troll Warrior is about to die, Dazzle can cast the last word on him so he doesn't die for 4 seconds, and sometimes he can lifesteal back with Warlocks or with a Master of Madness. As the ideal candidate for the Master of Madness, Troll Dude excels in terms of attack speed. With a Maelstrom or a Junior, Troll Warrior will be proccing lightnings all day for us. Over here we have the Necro, one of the crucial units for the undead. Necromancer is a great unit to swap out Abaddon. As a knight and a melee unit, Abaddon is no longer that great. And because he's a melee unit, we sometimes don't want him as a 2-star because he will actually sell at a discount. Necromancer is a warlock that gains mana fast. Necromancer can heal the allies or deal damage to the enemy, so he has defensive and offensive capacities. And lastly, Necromancer can enable the warlocks, so Necromancer becomes ideal candidate for most lineups if they have tanky units like knights or warriors. Sometimes I even run Necromancer with my goblins. A 2-star Necromancer is a force to be reckoned with because his heals are so much shorter on CD, and he does so much AoE damage and healing. Necromancer also works really well in the Gods lineup. If you have seen my Gods video, you know how strong they are. If you have 2 Necromancers healing at 1.25 seconds a pop, no one can deal 300 damage AoE compared to that Necromancer's healing. We have the Disruptor and Temple Assassin over here. The Disruptor is nice as an Orc. Disruptor is also nice as a Shadow Shaman. The downside for the Disruptor, who used to be the optimal unit composition for the trolls at level 9 or level 10, is falling off because now the trolls is more versatile. There's no need for the control of Disruptor when they can pick up a Deucer or the Conquer. So Disruptor is still good and still optional, but the Disruptor is no longer as crucial as before. Disruptor is great against the mages. If I was fighting a mage, the Disruptor would go up over here. But if I was fighting most of the other lineups, the Disruptor may be here. I put the Disruptor down here to highlight that sometimes we don't need the Disruptor on the troll lineup. Noticing Disruptor at level 1, 1-star Disruptor is not very effective unless you have a Shadow Shaman. Disruptor really have to be 2-star to be effective, and that's a crucial weakness for disruptors, because it's hard to find 3 purple units, and because of that, I'm putting him a little lower. Templar Assassin, a great standalone unit. She's like the opposite of the Disruptor. At level 1, she can do a lot. If she survives long enough, she actually distracts enemy backline and sometimes does wonderful things with evasion. The downside with Templar is, if you don't have the assassins, she really do fall off because she takes up a spot and that doesn't do much other than taking a few extra hits. In the late game, there's so many enemies, a few extra hits will not matter a lot. But if she has evasion and critical damage, she can distract the backlines and do a lot more than what she does. Dragon Knight and the Keeper of the Light. Both are situational units, one is for the mages, one is for the knights and dragons. Because of the fallen for the because the slight nerf to the knights, that's not a slight nerf though, because of the changes for the knights, Dragon Knight is no longer one of my favorite composition. I can still run Dragon Knight with the dragons, maybe in an elf lineup, maybe in an assassin lineup, maybe in a knights lineup. But as of now, I have not seen many people running Dragon Knight effectively, even at 2-star. There's just so many things that counters him, and so many things that punishes knights being so squishy now. Keeper of the Light is a great traditional mage. No way is he a weak unit, but the downside for Keeper is that if you plan to run a Gods lineup, you can only have one human, and Crystal Maiden always overweights the Keeper. But on the other side, if you're running a normal mage lineup, Keeper of the Light is a crucial unit. And for most players that doesn't run a mage lineup, they will not go for the Keeper of the Light. So if you pick up the Keeper of the Light as a mage, it's likely you can find your 2-star or even 3-star Keeper very fast. Over here, we have the 5-cost tier list. We have 2 of the legendaries on top of the tier list. We also have Ogre cosplaying for the Wisp. Ogre is a round form and he's also blue, right? So let's have a look. Tidehunter is one of the best initiators in the game. 1-star Tidehunter with some items can always get the ravage off unless you face an anti-mage or maybe a really heavy focus lineup. But a 2-star Tidehunter can usually get his spells off. Being one of the top initiators, they are only 3.5. The half is Disruptor, the 3 is Conquer, Medusa, and Tidehunter. And Tidehunter is stronger than Medusa because it's instantaneous. Medusa is stronger than the Conquer because she has 5-second casting and she stones for 2.5 seconds. Conquer is a weaker controller in comparison to those two because he has 3-second delay before the bolt lands. But regardless, those are long time stuns and that's much needed in the late game. Over here we have Enigma. One of those units have really getting a big boost of power. Enigma used to do 50% of pure damage to the enemy over 10 seconds at level 1 and 70% at level 2 I believe. Now he does 60% at level 1 over 10 seconds and 90% of pure damage over 10 seconds to the enemy. If Enigma was around in a Warlock lineup, not only he can do damage, he can also start lifestealing with his damage dealt. So Enigma is becoming a very powerful unit in most lineup. Because of the popularity of players being grouping up in a ball and also finding tanky lineups like warriors, Enigma really punishes those lineups who doesn't do that much damage, who allows him to excel by casting the spell on top of them. Enigma is also wonderful against neutral monsters. If you face a monster, some of you have seen that by having Enigma casting, even if you lose the monster, you can still kill it for the items. Enigma is a key unit to fight the Roshians, the Trolls, and the Year Beast. On the second tier, we have Techies, Gyro, and Wisp. Those are different units. I'll be explaining those as we go. Techies has been getting a lot of favor for players who runs Undead, even players who runs Mages. The reason being is that Techies, once he casts his spawn, it's guaranteed he will do massive AoE physical damage. And most units do not have that much armor in the late game, especially for assassins, especially for mages. Techie just need a few items to be soaking damage in the front line, and once Techie is 2-star, he can always guarantee to deal 1100 physical damage, which is massive against the enemies. Sometimes in a lineup like Hunters, Techies can be surprisingly strong as well. Even in Knights with an Undead lineup, Techies can be a very powerful unit for the Knights to deal a lot of damage. Gyrocopter on the side is one of the fastest attacking unit in the game. Gyro attacks at 0.9 attack speed, also have 15 armor. Gyrocopter can be sit in the back as an assassin bait who can tank the assassins and usually get his spells fast. And then Gyrocopter can go to the front line, also deal a lot of magical damage if he takes the damage. A 2-star Gyrocopter is one of the strongest units on the Goblins lineup and also very strong on the Mage lineup. The Gyrocopter is actually a Mage AoE nuker that has a 10-second CD that deals 400 AoE damage to every unit in the radius and 600 AoE damage to every unit in the radius at level 2. Because it's lower CD and wide range, Gyrocopter can sometimes get 2 spells off. Because those spells, once casted, it doesn't care if Gyro is alive or not. Gyro is a really nice unit. I'll be touching on the Wisp last. Let's touch on the Zeus and the Death Prophet over here. Zeus is a mage. Knowing that now Lich is removed from the pool, Zeus becomes the crucial 6th mage for the mage lineup. Zeus is also a crucial mage for the Gods mage. And because of that, Zeus is really highly rewarding the mages by finding him. Zeus can also help players who are dominating to punish other players with massive HP loss because his passive, each time he wins an offensive round, he will zap players for 10% and 15% of the max health depending on Zeus's level. Zeus will zap players for the current health if he wins an offensive fight, and that's really punishing for players who's already losing a lot of health. Zeus's downside is at 1-star, Zeus can't gain mana as fast without a Crystal Maiden. At 2-star, Zeus is quite hard to be found at 2-star, but if you do find Zeus as 2-star, his only downside is his long cooldown of spells and his 50% chance of missing the unit. For those that didn't know, Zeus's AoE will hit everyone, but there's 50% chance of the unit taking 0 damage. He is guaranteed to hit at least 1 unit, but the downside is if there are multiple units, sometimes when he casts his spells, none of the units take damage except 1. Zeus is great against units that has massive HP pool, because those units actually take a percentage-based damage. That is why Zeus is also great against neutral monsters. Zeus really outshines in the Gods lineup with double cooldown reduction. With a Mars and a Zeus, Zeus will be casting almost 3 to 2 seconds every time, massively nuking all the enemy units. Over here, we have the lowest legendary being the Death Prophet. She's an undead, she's a warlock, and also she does a lot of physical damage. So why is that I put her as low as possible? The reason is that she, unlike the other legendaries, she is not instantaneous. She has to stay alive on the board to make sure she works. If I wanted undead, Necromancer is actually easier unit to be found as 2-star. Necromancer will heal and deal AoE damage. Death Prophet does a lot of physical damage if she's alive. The downside is it's so much harder to find a 2-star Death Prophet, and at 1-star Death Prophet, usually she casts her spells, she dies within the next 2 seconds. It's as she's a waste of spot over here. So if I was having undead, I'll actually pick the Necromancer. The Lich, we don't have the Lich anymore, so I'll pick Necromancer and the Jaw Ranger, or maybe the Abaddon and Necromancer over the Death Prophet. Death Prophet is a Warlock, but if I was picking a Warlock, I'm likely to pick the Necromancer, the Enigma, maybe a Venomancer or Alchemist over her, because her lack of ability to stay alive in a fight as 1-star. But once the Death Prophet becomes 2-star, she is quite a strong unit. Not only does her spells deal physical damage over 10 seconds, she can also heal after 10 seconds. So those wisps she sends out will come back and heal her. She's quite a strong unit if she gets a few items at 2-star, but the downside is the difficulty of finding her at 2-star. Talking about the difficulties, we'll be looking at the Wisp over here. And the Wisp is one of those new units that's very exciting. Wisp is a unit that I call a wild card. Wisp can be found at any stage of the game. You don't have to be level 8 to find the Wisp, and Wisp can be found at round 1, 2 or 3. Wisp is a 5-cost elf unit. Wisp does not have a class, and what it does, it allows you to fuse any of the units with a Wisp. For example, if we have 2 Enigma on the board, if you put down Wisp as the 3rd unit, Wisp will fuse the Enigma and turn that into a 2-star Enigma. Similarly, if you have 2-star Enigma on the board, if you put a 2-star Wisp, that will turn the Enigmas into a 3-star. It sounds wonderful, but most of the time we do find Wisp a little earlier than usual. So before we find most of our legendaries, we'll find the Wisp. So it comes to decision making. When do we buy the Wisp and how do we use the Wisp? Personally, I'll buy the Wisp and use the Wisp most of the time if I'm winning. If I'm losing and short for gold, I don't have a crucial unit to find as a 2-star, I might pass the Wisp. I have found the Wisp around 4 once. I definitely pass the Wisp over there because I don't have enough gold to buy him. I have used the Wisp to fuse the Shadow Thing, Razors. So the tips I give to everyone is that if you use Wisp for a 3 cost, 4 cost and 5 cost unit for 2-star units, you can use the Wisp for 3-star units for any unit. I have used Wisp for Bat Riders, Wisp for Clockwork, Wisp for Timbersaw into 3-star. To summarize for this unique tier list, we want to focus on the comparison of 1 cost to 5 cost units separately. We also want to consider the mid-game and late-game potential of the units. Usually the 1 cost and the 2 cost units are here for us to build advantage, to save up, and to build an economy. The 2 cost and 3 cost and 4 cost units are here for us to transition into the mid-game. Lastly, the 4 cost and 5 cost units are here for us to build from the mid-game to the late game with better controls, and with better synergy, and with better AoEs and spell casting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tier list. Let me know in the comments below of what do you think about those unit choices and if you have any different suggestions. Thank you so much guys for watching. Please support me further by liking and subscribing to YouTube channel. Please also support me on Twitch by following and using the Twitch Prime subs here on Twitch. Thank you so much guys for your support so far. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.